Okay, everyone. Today we are on page 109, chapter on meditation. As we know, chapter on meditation is for flourishing the bodhicitta ever more and more. In order to further develop the bodhicitta that we have generated, meditation practice is important. Now, speaking of meditation, in some ways, meditation is quite simple. In some ways, meditation is very complex subject. And of course, meditation, simple form of meditation, and very advanced form of meditations. So, today, let us discuss how Shantideva lays out the instructions on meditation. Okay? Here, this chapter begins, cultivating diligence as just described. In concentration, I will place my mind. For those whose minds are slack and wandering, are caught between the fangs of the afflictions. Okay. Here, before we doing anything, before we begin meditation, first we have to think about, we have to recognize how our mind is. Our mind, Shantideva describes in two aspects, wandering mind and slack. So, when you look at our minds, what is our normal mind, so-called mind? Usually we give the example of a monkey which constantly jumping ups and downs, backs and forth, never sitting still. So that monkey is the perfect example of our one aspect of mind. Here Shantideva called wandering, or in Tibetan, gopa, which translated as agitated. The mind, which is in constant thought, either thinking the past experience or thinking the future event, anticipating for the future event, while one's not aware of the present moment. Basically, to put it in simple words, is quite lost. The past and future, as our prayer goes, retracing the past and anticipating the future. Of course, when our mind is in those state, our mind is being lost in this, for this present moment. We are not in the present moment. So that is the one aspect of mind. Okay? Now another aspect of mind, it's like dullness, mukpa before Tibetan. That is like dull, just sleeping state, unaware of things. Of course, there is mind, but that mind is just not in a dull state, in a state of dullness, not knowing what's going on around. So basically, two kinds of minds that ordinary beings just happen to be in those states of mind. And then now, in Buddhist practice, we say, once you recognize your mind in such state, dullness or agitation, now we go to do something with this mind. We go to overcome this mind. So here, the main thing, we can say that meditation can be divided into two kinds of meditation, so-called shamatha practice, or sometimes vipassana or shamatha practice, and then other one, sometimes called vipassana practice, right? So in Tibetan word for these two meditations are called shine and phakton, which translated in English as calm abiding shine aspect, phakton aspect, here translated as penetrative insight. Therefore, Shantideva here says, penetrative insight joined with calm abiding, utterly eradicate afflicted states. Knowing this, first search for calm abiding. Okay. Now what we have is here is two kinds of meditation we're talking about, right? First and foremost, to begin with, is calm abiding meditations, shine practice. What is calm abiding meditations? Calm abiding meditation means calm. Put it simple. The agitated aspect of our mind, which is monkey-like, that which is completely restless, retracing the past, anticipating the future, basically in a constant motion. It's our minds. So this mind somehow needs to calm down a little bit before you do anything. Otherwise, what can you accomplish? Being always in the state of loss. So somehow our restless, monkey-like mind must calm down. That calming down aspect, that calming method, is shamatha method, shamatha practice. Now, let's say mind is calm. Calming alone is not enough, of course. Calm mind can achieve, not the real one, but similar mind can be achieved through many means. But now the most important thing is We have to have penetrative insight here translated. In Tibetan, as I said, Lathong. Lathong translated as, penetrative insight. Sometimes they translate as superior seeing. I like those, superior seeing. Lathong. Lak means something better, or than any other thing. Seeing means understanding, the insight. That is Laktong. Now, Laktong aspect, of course, the real Laktong we are talking about is we call Dametopishera, which means realizations of emptiness, the insight into the nature of reality. That is real Laktong, the realizations of Laktong. Superior seeing, or isn't it? Or realization of superior seeing. Now, basic things like basic Laktongs are basically, in this case, realizations of the equality of all sentient beings, like that. In our general practice, 4 thoughts that which turn our minds toward Dharma. Preciousness of our human life, impermanent nature, infallible law of cause and effects, suffering of samsara, all this has to do with Laktong, understanding, insight. And then these will lead further better Laktong, and further better Laktong, ultimate realization. So, the understanding, the insight into the nature, or into the, basically the knowledge that is better, superior than other Laktong. Okay. Now, when we talk about meditation, we're talking about either calming mind, remaining this calm, the state of mind, or we're talking about Laktong, penetrative insight. Once calm mind is there, then one can know things. Otherwise, when monkey-like mind, all this thought hijacks what we are trying to do, isn't it? So, once our mind is calm state, and then we can see things through. Usually we give example. In the Abhidharma teaching, we say, Shinichi Jamso Mena, Patongi Nyamomichu, which means if there's no calm abiding like ocean, the fish-like penetrative insight cannot swim. So this penetrative insight happens when mind is in a state of calmness. At the same time, I have to make sure it doesn't mean that to have insight, you have to achieve the Shine practice or calm abiding practice. Even though your Shine practice is not good, mind is still monkey-like mind, but it's still a glimpse of nature that happens. But it's not ideal. We say that kind of insight is like a butter lamp on high mountains, winds blowing through every direction. butter lamp is quite flickering, almost dying. But this is butter lamp. It does illuminate. So that's a lot to talk about, but I don't want to throw lots of things here. It's very confusing. The first thing about is insight, penetrative insight. The superior seeing happens when mind is calm. When mind is calm. Let us just hold that point of view first. Now the question is, well, meditation, two things, calm abiding meditation and insight meditation, penetrative insight meditation, Thakthong practice. Now, in this case, how Shantideva present these two things? Now let me give you the whole overview of the chapter. Overview of the chapter again, according to Rinpoche, he divides into two sections. First, conducive conditions for accomplishment of meditation. One thing. Second, the instruction for actual meditation. Okay. Of course, now first we are going to talk about the conducive conditions for accomplishment of meditation. Talking about this, according to Rinpoche, in this chapter, Shantideva first talk about the physical solitude or solitude of the body. Physical solitude. Physical solitude is the conducive condition for your accomplishment of meditations. Second, mental solitude, solitude of mind, which is again for accomplishment of perfect meditation. So, in these two sections, Shantideva talks about the conducive conditions, which are, first of all, which are that prevent us from achieving these perfect meditations, and which basically this very nature, which are the conducive conditions for achieving meditation. That is thing. That's the begin how Shantideva begins. And then for the instruction for actual meditation, Shantideva here will thoroughly explains meditating on the equanimity of self and others. Equalize, basically. Understanding, to generate that understanding. Equality of all sentient beings. That's actually meditation. But rather here, I should say, inside meditation. Understanding superior, other regular people, this we may know, but we haven't actualized that understanding. Otherwise, sentient beings will not hurt each other if they really have actualized the understanding of equanimity between self and others. And then, Shantideva will talk about meditating on exchanging self and others. Okay, now what we got here, actual meditation, Shantideva will talk about meditating on the equality of self and others, and meditating on exchange of self and others, the main actual meditations. So, this is the overall chapters, this meditation chapters teachings. Don't forget that the whole chapter has to do with further developing bodhicitta. In order to further develop bodhicitta, if one do not have actualized or profound understanding of equality of all sentient beings, how bodhicitta can further develop? If there's no exchange of self and others, how can it develop? So, very important, these two meditations. Okay, that is overall view of the chapter meditation. Now, let us talk about the first, a conducive condition for accomplishment of meditations. What are they? There are two things, right? Solitude of body, physical solitude, and mental solitude. Very, very important. Without this physical solitude, mental solitude, is still trying to generate, meditation, bodhicitta is quite a struggle. So, what will be really good conducive condition for meditation, for generating further developing bodhicitta? What we need is physical solitude and mental solitude. Okay, two solitudes. Here he reads, in solitude, the mind and body are not troubled by distractions. Therefore, live this holy life and totally abandon mental wandering. So this stanza synthesizes the true solitude. Now, let us talk about physical solitude. Physical solitude, physical condition for meditation. In this, there are three subcategories. First is giving up attachment to beings. Okay? Giving up attachment to beings. That's one subcategory. Second would be giving up attachment to worldly gains. Third, dwelling with the quality of solitude. Basically, being far away from everything. In a retreat, in a beautiful, calm place. Okay, so we are going to talk about three sections. Speaking of physical solitude. Okay. Now, first is giving up the attachment to beings. Giving up the attachment to beings, what does that really mean now? That is, in order to really sit down and meditate, somehow being in a crowd with lots of things happening around. There's loved ones to whom one attached to. There are enemies that one do not wish to see or hear. So in this kind of environment, it is quite difficult to meditate. Again, I'm saying here, it's not impossible, but here we're talking about, Shantideva is talking about, imagine the Shantideva teaching to the monks, Here he is talking about the perfect conducive conditions. That is, giving up attachments to the beings. So, attachment to the beings. As long as there's attachments, there's aversions, then how can you actually, realize the equanimity of all sentient beings? How can one do exchange meditations? This I was going to talk about. How can we actually generate bodhicitta? That's quite difficult. So, giving up attachments to all these surroundings. First see, to kind of hear this solitude, physical solitude, mental solitude, has to do with calm abiding meditations. Where there are lots of attachment, lots of aversion, all of things going on, the meditator's mind is in quite a difficult situations. So in order to calm this mind, in order to have a peaceful, calm, this restless monkey, somehow we have to talk about reducing our attachments and all these things, whatever's going on right now. So see, the ideal, the perfect place. So Buddha, actually going to become monk and nun and go to a temple, go to a monastery, but this supposedly there is nobody who shakes our comfort zone. Really. Everybody is generating bodhicitta, everybody is studying, everybody is generating compassion and kindness and insight, meditation, and everybody is very nice to each other. So something like that. So let's imagine those kind of places. It's quite totally different place. So the main thing here is not really, away leaving something, but somehow the attachment to one's surroundings. That's attachment is the thing that binds us. And aversion, this and that thing. So all this distraction. So here Shantideva talks about, now in order to really to meditate, you want to really do meditation? In order to do effectively their meditation, you must give up attachment to beings or the surroundings. Because all beings, starting from stanza 5th through 16th, is about giving up attachments. How all beings, realizing that all sentient beings, all phenomena are impermanent. And when you are in those society, those beings, somehow one's good quality dwindles, and somehow it happened to be more conducive to accumulating bad karmas, and all the sentient beings treating each other with, their own affective emotions somehow. So anyway, long story short, that's the kind of the scenario Shantideva described, and asks the meditator first to try to bring down the attachment. That is attachment to the society, to this surrounding. Okay? And second, here, giving up attachment to holy gains. Holy gains. That is, of course, first, holy gain is wealth. or wealth. So if you really want to be a good meditator, so somehow, if you're attached to so much for your wealth, if you chase after your wealth, day after day, and after your fame, reputations, all these things are basically distractions to meditation. Oh, makes sense, isn't it? So here, stanza 21, I really usually think of this stanza a lot. In Tibetan, it reads beautiful. This is stanza reads. Basically, as a meditator, you don't care about what the other people say. Don't too much reputations, those things very much. Meditator should have somehow calm instead of not too much listening. Oh my God, did you say that? Oh, I'm so happy. Oh my God, did you say that? I'm so sad. If those things, just too much dependent on others. Because then as a meditator, our mind becomes so much shaped, controlled by outside factors. So then we're not on the track of gaining mastery over our mind, controlling our mind. Here this stanza reads, why should I be pleased when people praise me? Others there will be who scorn and criticize. And why despondent when I'm blamed? Since there will be others who think well of me. In another word, don't care too much. If you say good things, why you generate arrogance? That's how sentient beings. If you say somebody, you look really good or you're wonderful, immediately somehow there's kind of pride, kind of arrogance. Oh, maybe I am a good looking guy. Maybe I am a better person than anybody else here. So those kind of things. Or another word, if somebody say bad things, you're a bad person with all these things and you totally depressed. So that is the scenario here. That's we are talking attached to worldly gains. What we're talking about here too much. Those things are not good conditions for meditators. So Shantideva is basically saying, being realistic. When other people praise you, why you are so much, generate arrogance and pride, those things? Don't you know that at the same time, while somebody is praising you, somebody is criticizing you? Obviously, throughout the history, there are people who are famous at the same time as there are, and some other people who down with the same person. At the same time, when somebody blames you, why you are so upset? Because there are lots of people very happy to you, who you are, so much appreciation. Why you are so much caring, Be always the same, Be our mind on its track. Don't be so much, don't let your being so much controlled by outside factor. Basically, see, meditation, realization, our mind training has to do with that. Somehow overcoming our mind. Become independent, so to speak. Independent. So that's the one reason that Shantideva and here Boddhisattva path we're talking about, So if one excel this Boddhisattva path, then you don't care what other, of course you care, but here, when somebody says small things, a small thing can throw you off, up and down, those things. Somehow, your mind should become very stable, not too much attached not too much to the worldly gains, not too much attached to your surroundings and all these things. That's good meditator. And then third aspect, third here, from stanza 25th through stanza 38th. Here now, so far we talk about what? Outer, external, those being in a society, those attachment and a worldly wealth and reputation. Now, Shantideva talks about dwelling with the quality of solitude, basically. Now, this is the scenario. As a real Bodhisattva who have generated bodhicitta, they actually have to go back to society, walk in the society. But those who are totally sort of dependent on external factors, you care so much, you are totally dependent on a factor, then, ideal place for you to meditate is somewhere quiet place. In the instructions, detailed instructions for meditators, we talk about Drupsa Nechichewa, which means first figure out the place, the best place to practice meditations. So in those detailed teachings, we talk about the best place to reflect on impermanence, meditate on impermanence. The best place for reflecting on compassions. The best place for meditating on the emptiness. And so even in the Dzogchen teachings, meditating on bliss, meditating on clarity, meditating on no thought, empty essence. We talk about different places. But obviously here what I'm trying to say is for good condition, we're in the subject of conditions, conducive condition for your practice. The conducive conditions, obviously, rather away from things. In my own experience, I can say that when I go to Pema Kur, something happens because actually nothing happens. Simply, I don't have their electricity. Now you imagine a place where there's no electricity. What does that mean? That means the rest of the things, the CNN, all these things, Fox channel, that. So anyway, all the TVs, all the computers, phones, gone. Right? And just away from everything. And when all these things here, for some reason, you are conditioned to, I feel that, conditions to stuck to these things. I think this because, I have lots of people that I exchange emails and phone. And when I forget to respond for a few days, some of my close people who I exchange email, just write me back and said, "Well, I send you email, it looks like it went into a black hole somewhere in the universe. That black hole takes out and there's no kind of trace, I guess." I found out that later. But somehow, now you're becoming more of an anti-social. That's not good. So you go to stick to your phone, to your computer, something like that. That's what I feel. But anyway, long story short, when I'm in Pema Kur, None of these things are there. At the beginning, a little bit, something is missing kind of feeling, and then when you actually into 3-4 more days, then definitely, what a beautiful time. Usually I say to people, I go to Pema Group to reflect on my own life, what I'm doing, where I'm heading. That's in some ways, that's what I'm doing. And when I look at the life here from that perspective, from Pema Group life, I find somehow interesting my life here. At the same time, right now, when I think about life in Pema Group without electricity, are you kidding? In this 21st century? But that's all different perspective. What I'm here trying to say you is basically this Shantideva talking about in a remote, in a far away, in a solitary solitude. Does it matter? It does. At the same time, then if you say, well, then are we hopeless here? Of course not. Of course not. Again, I would like to just very much this where there's a way, where there's a will, there's a way. Such a beautiful thing to say in English. There's a way. In your own place. Last time as we talked about, if you have a place, make your own room in which you put the pictures, the statues, if you have one, up, arrange the offerings, and this is your solitude place. This is where you meditate. Let this be a place where this is a solitude, or in your own room, at a corner somewhere, and that somewhere in the corner of your place, in your own room, a small room. This be solitude. So basically, Shantideva here saying is the reason he said you go to the mountain and cave is so that basically, to put in a simple way, is just nobody who shakes our comfort zones. We don't have to please anybody there. Imagine this practitioner wandering from retreat land to retreat land, from forest to forest, beg food and meditate. She doesn't have to please anybody. She doesn't have to care who think what, looking good or not, all sort of things. It doesn't have to take care of anybody. It's just as free as birds. Yes, of course, then that is the ideal situation for meditator, But again, I want to say that's not at all time, that's not the case. But here we're talking about ideal place, ideal situation. Okay. Now that complete physical solitude. Now mental solitude it starts from stanza 39. Mental solitude. Now, very important. Why Shantideva talked about giving up attachment to beings, holy gains, go to solitary? Why? The main reason is so that it inspire those in being in solitude, inspire or help. These are conducive conditions for mental solitude. Mental solitude. In another word, if you want to go to far away in a forest, and then you have so much things going on in your head, and what does it serve? The purpose is not serve being in solitude, far away. Your mind is full of things, thinking all this and that, and all this, attachment, desires, and so on and so forth. The monkey-like mind is ever more active. So what is the point of going solitude. Solitude, being in solitude, being far away from everybody, definitely is conducive. Now, look at our mind, what mind is doing. Mind should be free from all these things. Okay, speaking of that, mental solitude, now Shantideva talks about there are three subcategories, okay? First is our desire to our opposite gender. That's what Shantideva talks about. Second, giving up attachment to one's belonging, whatever one has. And then third, Shantideva will briefly talk about reflecting on the quality, the benefit of being in solitude. Being in solitude, the quality of the solitude, basically, the quality, benefit, the quality, the wonderful, the greatness of these faraway places. Make sense? Okay. Now, first, the desire to opposite gender. Here, Shantideva used the gender word as, her, like that, woman, basically. So now we have to think that, to begin with, okay, desire, we call this, when we talk about three realms, desire realm, formless realm, this whole called desire realm. Our desire is predominant among affective emotions. Desire on a different levels, different levels of desires. And then now, when it comes to desire, the different levels. And then within this different level of desire, our desire to different gender, the opposite gender, from man to woman, woman to man. This is the desire we're talking about here. So here, reference is, woman, desiring woman by this man. Here, Shantideva, remember, he was asked to teach this. They arranged him a throne in Nalanda University, and they put him up on the throne. And imagine hundreds and hundreds of monks surrounding. Obviously, there's at that time, not many nuns, but there's monks basically. His audience all monks. Now addressing this teaching to the monks, so he has to talk about giving up attachment or desire that you have in woman to woman. It's a desire to give up. So if this is given to the nuns, nunnery place, this must be his or him, all this gender. Other word should be replaced. Okay. So giving up basically the attachments to opposite gender. First, Shantideva from stanza 40 talks about difficulty of obtaining or getting that for man and woman, man. It's so complicated. As a meditator, it takes some time. It takes a long time, I guess, to kind of come to know each other. And anyway, this thing's a long story, right, for us. So not necessary to detail about it. That's the first thing, difficulties. Second, from stanza 43, talks about gender, other gender, for man, woman, woman to man. In fact, this undesirable nature, when you look at from stanza 43 through stanza 70, long way, he talks about directly pointing to our desire. Now Shantideva, what he talks about, the main thing is that what you are desiring to, find out the object, real object that you are desiring. The lustful attachment that opposite sex, Is that the flesh or is that for the bone or what else, really? When you really look into it, then it just, our desire is just desire. Just realize that, oh my God. Some people do say that when, things don't go that well. But here we're talking about Shantideva's real kind of understanding the really to change, in order to change our own desire to opposite gender, that really pinpointing to what is that really you're desiring to. When you really look into it, then it's simply, I think, it goes away. And basically, Shantideva emphasized, in order to, this is the case actually on from the lower vehicles teaching, the direct antidote for desire is thinking the other gender, opposite gender, is not worthy, not that desirable, not that desirable sort of thing. Detailing how not desirable the passion born are, basically. Okay. And from stanza 71, Shantideva talks about, now that desire they have, and then being together, man and woman, this result in bad karmas, lots of bad karmas. So here basically, what is it is that friendship is not one, but what it brings now, because of that desire, because of that attachment to each other's. From that, then, from Dharma point of view, then kind of a little bit of a jealousy here and there, and kind of aversion from that, and then computations and envies and attachment and so on and so forth. Somehow from that bondage, from that relation, but something results, I guess. I don't know. You know better with these things. So that's a story here. Okay. Now second mental kind of solitude is then again, Shantideva says, giving up our attachment to our belongings. Let's imagine this meditator in a solitude, but it's still there's some kind of some kind of desire, kind of attachment to his or her own belongings. So here the sentence reads, stanza 79 reads, the pain of gaining the wealth of belongings, the pain of keeping when one had those belongings, the pain of losing it. Oh my gosh, lots of things you have to deal with it when one had those wealth, those jewelry and diamonds, all these things. From two meditators' point of view, if you are busy with gaining those wealth, and if you're busy with keeping those wealth, if you are busy with unhappy with losing those, then where is actually your time to practice? So So that is the one thing. Again, mentally kind of, mental solitude, not kind of giving up this attachment to one's belonging, whatever there is, really. No desire to anything, no attachment to anything that one owns, If you still have those desire, attachment, then again it disturbs. So from stanza 85 through 88, stanza 85 through 88 is basically reflecting on the quality of solitude. Solitude. So imagine you have been in this solitude. Maybe you sometimes you got bored, or sometimes there's an obstacle for meditator. There's things can happen. So Shantideva reminds you, what? Being in this wonderful place, the quality of the benefit of the solitude. That's so wonderful. Being in this, far away place. And far away place is very good. The reason is there's no possessions. Imagine this meditator far away on a land, in a forest, owned by nobody. He doesn't own. He just somebody's place, some place, national park or something. In this very place, he doesn't have any possessions to be guarded. He doesn't have anybody to attach to. He doesn't have anybody who shakes his comfort zones. Nobody is there to hate. Nobody is there to desire, attachment, all these things. So this is a quality of of solitude. So now imagine the person, the ideal thing, far leaving everything behind, no attachment to holy beings, these relatives and enemies, far away from everything, being in solitude, in a beautiful place. Obviously, in this person's mind, this monkey mind is already calm, in fact. Or he or she is completely ready to calm down all these conditions. So that complete what cause of meditation. So obviously, when we, without thinking of these conducive conditions, leaving behind this may appear to be obstacle, but it's still trying to meditate. When we be able to meditate, it's really good, wonderful. Here, again, Shantideva's point of view is, for ideal meditator, that's how it should be. Okay. Let's pass part. We're done. Now, second part, actual meditation. Okay? Now this person is ready to meditate. Ready to meditate on equality of all sentient beings. Ready to meditate on exchange of self and others in this kind of situation, in this kind of ideal situation. Here, stanza 89 reads, reflecting in such ways as these upon the excellence of solitude, specify completely all discursiveness and cultivate the mind of bodhicitta. In this beautiful solitude, not outer solitude, Shantideva talked about, inner solitude, giving up all attachment, desire. Now it's a perfect kind of, stillness. The stillness is there. The butter lamb they talk about can, survive without any, airs blowing from all directions. Now in this beautiful setting, perfect conducive condition, within this now meditate. Okay, now meditation. What do we meditate here? Two things, equality and exchange of awesome. The equality. Now why Shantideva emphasized here equality? Equality because, see, the main thing here, if one do not have this understanding of all sentient beings wishing to have happiness, all sentient beings wishing to be free of suffering, and we are in fact same, see, same. In Patu Rinpoche is also my perfect teacher, remember? Explain this thoroughly, in the chapter of Bodhicitta. So first visualize your loved one in front, and you are here, and exchange and then you look at what difference is there. Your loved one wish for happiness, your loved one wish to be free of suffering, and you and your loved one in that point completely same. And how about more people, all your relatives, and all your fellow countrymen, all human beings? Now going further, Buddhist teaching goes then beyond human level. How about the fish swimming in the ocean, marine lives, and birds flowing and flying in the sky? Every living being now, every living being equal. Main obstacles that bring bodhicitta down is that I, remember, I, big thing, this I, capitalized I, my big thing. As long as this big I, the big my, I am important, I am in the center of things, I am better than anybody, I think continue, that much emphasis is there for some reason, genuine bodhicitta, genuine compassion, true, genuinely caring for all sentient beings, I guess it's quite difficult to happen. So, equalizing. Shantideva gives really step-by-step reason. We don't have time to go through these things, but please you go back and read with this brief introduction, we go and back read how, he gives all this reason, how we all sentient beings are equal. And I is wrong. When one actually realize, wonderful things happen, And then stanza 107, from here he talks about the benefit of this practice, equalizing, benefit of this meditation, equality of all sentient beings. Of course, then, really, why human beings hurt each other is because there's just a big I and disregard others' feeling. When one really have this understanding, profound understanding, there's no way you hurt others. You won't hurt yourself. So everybody you treat the same way as you treat yourself, as you wish for your self-happiness, you will also wish for all happiness. You wish to be free of suffering. So you will wish genuinely all sentient beings to be free of suffering. So this, of course, comes from this profound understanding. This kind of understanding, equality of sentient beings, not that difficult concept, isn't it? Very easy concept, but something that we miss, something we lack of actualizing in our practice. So Buddhist teaching, Shantideva's teaching like this, kind of encourages us to apply this teaching. You know what? This is what it is. Apply this. Here, Shantideva, not really, I'm talking about something mysterious kind of experiencing. That's you think about it, you will get it. And then somehow, if one really get it, then our bodhicitta will be forever, stronger. And it will be more genuine than simply, conceptualizing things, Important thing is to meditate on this equality of all sentient beings. Second, now, exchange of self and others. Okay. Okay. I'll be brief. Okay, exchange of self and others has now different categories. First, Shantideva talks about general ways to exchange self and others. General ways, explain. And then he will continue on explaining the practice of exchange with regards to specific antidotes. Specifically, really, when you go really into deep practice, how you practice that, self and others. And then after you do really the exchange practice, then what follows, how you practice. Okay, that's how he explains here. Now, general ways to exchange self and others. This is a very important thing, for our basic common understanding in day-to-day lives. What if I'm him? How I would do, how I would say. What if I'm her when things happen? Always somehow very important, I think, being wise, or being wise means like that. And when you really put in somebody's shoes, then one has some kind of profound shift in our minds. Then forgiveness, then being patient, then being compassionate does make sense. So that's what it is, and it is not that difficult to do so. So here Shantideva lays out this detailed explanation. When you really know how to do these things, then there is anybody really that you really, who really shakes your comfort zone. The worst can think of is somebody really in modern world. Imagine somebody, blow themselves up to kill lots of people. Those things. If you really put in their shoes, imagine somebody who are born in such environment, which is not that somebody hatred something, grow up in the hatred kind of things, and then when you really think about like that, from that point of view, poor beings, such a hatred life. I watched some of the historical movies, those like Alexander the Great, all this, Mongolian, this guy, Great Khan, and those things. As far as I understand, they grew up in such an environment and just make them such a person, that mean and killing and all these things. So, but when you really put in their shoes, how you grow, how you're born, how you're taught, how you raise up, and then somehow their profound understanding, oh, poor beings, poor beings. Yes, so much compassion, in fact, so much compassion, so much ignorance sentient beings have, you realize. So anyway, long story short, please do think about these things, exchange of self and others. What in day-to-day life is always important. What if I'm him? What if I'm her? And so all these teachings here. Stanza 114 from here talks about really the taking enthusiastically, really, you really want to find something out. So, put yourself really, joyfully put into others' shoes, so to speak, in others' place, and then think about, So it's very important to generate compassion. Here, stanza 121 talks about getting rid of self-cherishing, that and have some understanding of why sentient beings wander in samsara, why people do things, they do things, is they are not really doing this understanding, having this understanding, not meditating on equality to all sentient beings, not exchanging, just thinking self-cherishing. They are thinking they are the best. Oneself, really, if one's considered as a Buddhist, what Buddha really taught, from the get-go, Buddha taught, your ego clinging mind is the source of suffering. We all know that. What is really bring down our bodhicitta is ego clinging mind. That's a long story short. That's it. That's it. So of course, from the beginningless lifetime, sentient beings suffer because of there's a big I, and this big I is better than anybody else, and so on and so forth. Our samsaric experience. From stanza 126 talks about what are the benefit of, thinking, exchanging oneself and others, all these things, and what are the defects of just, self-cherishing. Here in this stanza 129 is the one stanza that we always quote anywhere, okay? This one stanza. Here reads, you also keep this in your, copy this. This is very important. Fundamental Buddhist Mahayana concept. All the joy the world contains has come through wishing happiness for others. All the misery the world contains has come through wanting pleasure for only yourself. Yeah, that's the end of the story here. Not long story here. That really encompasses the whole idea of, here bodhicitta. Okay. Here stanza 134 from here, then, talks about, once more, emphasize the importance of this exchange, really. Why? Because exchange brings you the understanding, exchange brings you the bodhicitta, exchange brings you the profound understanding and Buddhahood, basically, enlightenment it brings. Not exchanging, something bad. Okay. Now from stanza 140, now Shantideva goes into very deep, really deep into the exchange. How he goes. It is take others. There are three kinds of beings here we are talking about. Compared to oneself, you are here, and when you look around you, there are three kinds of beings for you. Some are lower than you, some are higher than you, some are equal to you. That's a scenario here. Okay. Identify yourself as others. Then, without another thought, immerse yourself in envy, pride, and rivalry. So, from here, Shantideva talks about the three things. He says, basically, practice of envy. From the point of view of someone lesser off, lower than you. Let's imagine you are somebody who's lower than you. Not good looking as you are, not as rich as you are, not as talented as you are. Somebody, imagine. And you exchange to that person, and from that person's point of view, you look to yourself. It's very going into deep, And you actually generate a envy from that person's point of view. You go into that person's view, and that person generates the envy. Oh, why? Why he's better than me? Why he has more than me? Why everybody likes him, but not me? Imagine, go to that. Actually, you do that practice, actually. And you do that. That really brings you profound, understanding. From stanza 147 is the second one, that practice of jealousy from the point of view of an equal, basically. Now you imagine the equal person, to you. And that equal person wants, we are same, but still I want better. I want to be better than him. Right now we are same, but still I want better. That kind of, you think about that. And stanza 151 is the practice of pride from the point of view someone better off. You imagine somebody who is well better off than yourself. And then from this person's point of view, you think, wow, I'm really better than him. And I'm more wealthy, or so on and so forth. And generate actually the pride. Generate this pride. Wow, these are the Shantideva's teachings. This kind of generating envy, rivalry, pride, replacing completely. Try to three kinds of beings, right? Lower, equal, and higher. You put yourself literally, so to speak, in their shoes, and from their point of view, you look back and see how you feel. And then the good thing, lots of realization, really, when you do that. Why did those more rich people, they walk arrogant, they talk arrogant, I don't know, so on and so forth, that you are really pissed off. So those things really, when you really put in their shoes, then from their point of view, you look down and he is nothing, she's nothing. Some kind of those kind of peoples. So that people, those wealth, again, as I said, as ordinary beings, when wealth is there, the good things bring attachment. Good things bring arrogance. Good things bring, that's the way things are. Not having outer phenomena, those things bring suffering. So totally dependent on external factor, these things all samsaric phenomena. So when you see such an arrogant person treat you not well, there's some acceptance naturally, some profound understanding. And somebody treat you with so much jealousy, there's some profound understanding you will have if you do this kind of exchange practice. Stanza 155. From here, Shantideva talks about, now we have already, so far what we have done is practice on equality of all self and others. We already have exchanged self and others. Now, so-called Tonglen practice in Tibetan words, right? Here, stanza 161 reads, happiness and fulfillment, these I give away. The pain of others, this I will embrace. Inquiring of myself repeatedly, I will thus investigate my fall. Basically, imagine now you have actualized this meditation. Self and other equal, exchange self and other. Now Tonglen practice is a piece of cake, isn't it? Piece of cake, really. Giving away everything you have in your visualization. When you breathe out, everything go out. Breathing, all the suffering come in. All this Tonglen practice. Basically, Bodhisattva's actions to benefit beings unconditionally, with genuine heart. Really, can happen if you think about like this, let alone meditating on it, really, meditating on it. It's logically, it does make sense that unconditional love, so-called unconditional love, can this happen? Logically speaking, it's very much possible. So what a wonderful, practice. These are the practice that are done past masters and masters in the present. So doing this practice So these are not that complex idea, simple. Try to do practice. Okay. Now we are talking about here from stanza 168. Now there will be harsh ways. Shantideva says. Now treating the mind severely in translators, more harsh way saying. Treating the mind severely means here. Now, as a practitioner, you say to your own mind, now I'm not going to listen to you, all the attachment, and desires, and aversions, and listening you, I've been so much, in this endless, beginningless samsara. All suffering comes from that. From now on, sort of, Shantideva gives, do not listen, more of, be determined, really. Be overcome. Be overcome. Overcome what? With your own negative thoughts. With the understanding of, nature, understanding of all sentient beings, equal to oneself, in fact. And with that, now, a little bit, harsh way of kind of doing that. And from stanza 174, Shantideva talks about, now so far, listening to our body needs this, our body needs that, let alone in modern world, of course, body is the body, just so much desire, so much is decoration, or so forth, so on and so forth. Now Shantideva is saying, so far, because of this body, because of this sub-clinging, all these things happen. From now on, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to do it. Treat it fairly. Not much attachments. Not always capitalize I and me. From stanza 185, now Shantideva gives from here some last method, a conclusion basically. Shantideva says here, and so enough of all my childish ways from the beginningless lifetime till now. Childish ways. So much self-clinging, where there's no self. So much aversion, so much attachment, so much desire. These are totally irrational, no meaning at all. I will follow, here says Shantideva, in the steps of the wise ones of the past, and present, recalling their advice on carefulness. Here we are talking about, practice of mindfulness, isn't it? I will shun all sleep and mental dullness. So, with the practice of mindfulness, as a followers of the Boddhisattva path, please do remember the practice of carefulness and try our best to be mindful, So, that comes to the conclusion here. So, we talk about the perfect conditions for meditation practice, the good conditions. Once all conditions are there, practice of equality, practice of exchange, self and others. Here you have now so-called bodhicitta is ever more valuable, more rational, more profound, more, transformative, more real, so to speak. At the same time, you come to knowledge, come to realize so-called self, they cherish so much. From now, you determine not to listen to that ego, self-centered, this big thing, That by generating this bodhicitta, doing this kind of meditation, in fact, the realization of selflessness is already there. profoundly there with the generation of bodhicitta. And from this next chapter, we're going to talk about wisdom. That wisdom is basically further explanation of that sublessness, the powerful realizations. The sublessness, not only there's no sub, but in fact, when you look into the natural phenomena, things do not exist as the way you think. So from that, maybe go to the next chapter on wisdom.